Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to week 3 of the Fox Cub Quilt-Along. It is Friday, and on Fridays at Be So Inspired in November, we have added a second quilt-along, and we are sewing together the Fox Cub quilt. So this is a super popular pattern with the Forest Friends collections, and I wanted to make sure that we did a quilt-along together before the holiday season got too busy. So if you're just joining me today, you can grab the PDF pattern from the Be So Inspired shop. You can go get it from any local quilt shop that's carrying the fabric or the patterns. Pull fabric together from your stash. Watch back the videos if you want a little bit of tips and tricks. And I can't wait to sew this Fox Cub quilt with you. Super easy, super fun, and we're going to sew the main block together today. So in the instructions, we give you 2 colorways to go, but you can mix and match. We talked a little bit about maybe changing the feet to having socks if you wanted. They could be black socks or they can be your knitted fabric socks. This pattern was designed by myself to support the Forest Friends fabric collection, which is out right now. On Wednesdays on Be So Inspired, we are doing the doll panel and tent panel sew along. So if you have got the panel as well, you can join us on Wednesdays for that. But Fridays, we are quilting. So today is the main Fox block assembly. And that is the first, number of pages in your pattern. So the pattern has the Arctic colorway, but there's also, it's also showing for the woodland colorway as well in there. And we're going to talk about piecing it. So welcome everyone. Today, I'd love to know, tell me if you've decided if you are making socks on your fox or not. I'd love to know in the comments if you are making him in traditional fox feet or in socks. I'm really leaning towards, I've cut out both actually. I'm really leaning towards the knitted socks, but my daughter wanted the black feet, so I guess we'll see after today what he ends up with. All right, so today, just a little couple reminders. If you haven't already sewn up, this is a free quilt along. So if you haven't already signed up for it, all you need to do is go to besoinspired.com. There's a tab called Fabric Collections, and everything to do with any fabric collection is under there. So you'll see the Be a Superhero there. You'll see the Forest Friends, which is this, and you'll see the upcoming Nativity collection called Silent Night in there as well. And so if you just click on Forest Friends, you'll see that there's like blog posts, there's patterns, so you can grab the pattern there. You can also just go, there's a Can We Help You little tab there. You can just Google Fox Cub Quilt if you want as well, and you can find it that way. But also there's sew-alongs, quilt-alongs, and panel instructions. Everything is free for the quilt-alongs and sew-alongs and panel instructions, so go ahead and download them. Sign up for the Fox Cub Quilt-Along, and that just makes sure that, these videos are kind of meant to highlight some of the important pieces for each week, but the emails that you'll receive for each week, so we don't inundate you, you'll just get an email for each week. And the emails that you receive will just make sure that you don't miss the videos or the blog posts or any of the downloads. We give you direct links to them in those as well. So if you haven't already, please do sign up for that post, for that quilt-along. One of the downloads that are free when you buy the pattern, there is a code in here. And so the code, if it'll give you the direct link also to it, but it's pattern downloads under patterns under the shop. And you can get the letter labels. So they're just cute little Forest Friends letter labels. And it's really helpful because there's a number of pieces in the Fox Cub quilt. So as you can see him over here or her, that there's lots of pieces that we've used, but it's just basically one block. The border of the piece border here, which is what we do next week, is an optional border. So you don't have to do the piece block if you don't want to, or if you just want to use like a nice print or something, you can use that as well. But I've cut out all my pieces here. This is just the Fox Cub. This is not the border pieces. So I decided on, though, I'm going to make an Arctic fox, and with the gray accents and the fur, the charcoal accents here. And then this is my background print. This is actually one of my favorite prints in the whole collection in this colorway. So I'm just going to open it up and show it to you. It's It's called tracks, and as you can see why there are tracks going through. It's like a little foresty print, but you can see the adorable little tracks, and you can see that there's like tossed Arctic foxes in there. Can you find them? It's kind of like Where's Waldo? There you go. So lots of details on the trees and all the things. And then when you pull it back, you can see that there's tracks, but it's great because it's non-directional, so it's a great background print as well. So that's what I'm using for my background. Made that decision this week, so yay. So we are going to start by talking about a couple of the things that maybe you're not super familiar with. So the very first thing on page 4 after you've cut, when it's talking about the Fox assembly, is half square rectangles. So I'm going to show you my method for half square rectangles, and it's traditionally pieced, and it's just really, really fun to make. It's like magic. And there's a couple of half square rectangles, not too many in this pattern, but you can see there's a couple. There's one here and then 2 here. So, oh, and I believe one here too. So just a couple of half square rectangles. We'll work through the technique with you once, and then you can just apply it to the pieces that you need. And I'll show you how to make your own square if you want, or you can just use a ruler. But I'll show you that. I got my sewing machine here so we can sew that part together. And then the rest is traditionally pieced. So it's just very easy stitch and flip. I always love doing stitch and flips for my half square triangles. And then you've got just lots of easy assembly, just straight pieces together once you get all your pieces together. So it's going to go together really, really quick. I'm going to drop you down and we're going to talk about the half square rectangle right away. All right, so let's begin here. So if you go to your Fox Cub quilt on page 4, it's the half square rectangle units. So you're going to sew those together first, and we kind of group them together so that you can do them and then move on to the next thing. So here we go. I'm going to teach you how to make this template. So it says that you need to make you're going to trim it to 6.5 by 9.5. You do not have to make this template, but I feel like it's just so simple. Makes it a little simpler. So I'm going to take, this is a piece of just stabilizer. You can use paper, but I like stabilizer for the embroidery machine that I use, just because it's sort of fabric-like. And then if I slice it with my rotary cutter, then it doesn't, make any kind of a doll blade or anything. So I'm just going to make a straight edge on it here because I cut it with my scissors. And it says 6.5 by 9.5. So I am going to make 6.5 by 9.5 square, just like you would cut fabric. Okay, it's kind of hard to see on my white mat against white, but I can see it here. So, okay, 6.5 by 9.5, that's my template. So you can just use your ruler, and I'll show you how to do that as well. But I'm going to write on here 6.5 by 9.5, just so I know, and then I can keep it if I make multiple blocks as well. All right, so now it says to take pieces H and E. So I have all my pieces labeled and cut here. So that is just a really easy part about those letter labels. If you haven't got those letter labels, I would highly recommend it. So we need an H, which is right here, and the EE, which is right over here. So I'm going to take those pieces. I'm going to move this back out of the way. Okay, and I'm going to move my ruler out of the way here as well. Okay, so this is my H piece. I just need one of them. And the EE piece, I just need one of them because I have multiple pieces. I think what I'm going to do just to keep things organized is I'm going to pin this back to my other pieces as I set them aside, and then I don't have to worry. I'm going to do the same thing here, pin that and set it aside. Okay, so here is my EE piece, and this is my H. We're going to do right sides together. And I'm going to draw a diagonal line from one side to the other. So using my ruler, I'm going to take my longer ruler here. I'm going to put it from one corner to the other corner. And take my you can take an erasable pencil or a fabric pen, or I'm going to use a pen here just so it shows up really good on my video. I'm going to sew right on this line, but not like this. I'm going to show you what you need to do to it first. So this is, I'm drawing on the wrong side of the fabric. All right, it looks like this. I'm going to take the corner, the one corner of the top of that angle and the bottom corner of the other angle, and I'm going to rotate it to face this corner and this corner. Good. Place it there, and I'm going to pin it on that spot. And make sure the corner is pinned here as well. I'll move my template out of the way. I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew right. All right, so let's begin here. So if you go to your Fox Cub quilt on page Okay, so I've sewn along this drawn line, and you're going to trim a 1/4 inch seam allowance on one side or the other. So the thing about half square rectangles is you're going to get the same rectangle no matter which way you trim. So I'm going to get the white on the bottom and the green on the top angled in this direction. And I'm going to get the same thing over here, the white on the bottom and this teal on top in the same direction. So it doesn't really matter which way you trim. So you can take a look at your print. I've got a cute little fox appearing there and maybe none here. So I think I'm going to choose, I want to keep this print. So I'm going to trim on this side. So I'm just going to take this at my 1/4 seam. And I'm going to trim this part away. You can put this into your scrap pile for another quilt or for the kids to play with, and you can go and press this seam. So you can set your seam and press it, or I actually like to press my HSRs open just because it's it lays nice and flat, and then when I'm joining them together, then it's always, but that's a preference. And I have my stitch length set small, so 2 or even slightly below 2, just to keep everything nice and tight. I'll be right back. I'm going to go press this. Okay, so here I just pressed my half square rectangle. You can see I pressed the seam allowance open, and I have my little cute fox that appeared right there. Okay, so I can take my template now. I made this 6.5 by 9.5, and all you need to do is match the corner of your template in the top of the corner here and the bottom corner here, and then put your ruler along and trim it. You can, now I'll just show you, if you don't want to make this little template, you can do it like this as well. So you can do mark 6.5 by 9.5, and just make sure you meet the 6.5 at the corner and the 9.5 at the corner, and then trim as well. But you know, that's a lot of thinking for me. So I actually prefer this way, because then now I know it's exactly, I won't accidentally make it, you know, a 1/4 inch. It's a very visual way for me to do it. So I really like to just do it like this. I put my ruler over. I can always double check, right? It's lining up exactly at 9.5 and 6.5 here too. And I'm just going to trim it. So you want to make sure that you are trimming it with the corners going directly into the corner. Okay, and I'm going to just move this out here. I'm in a tight spot for my camera to reach all the spots. Okay, and here we go. Okay, so it looks like this. And as you can see, it's meeting up right in the corner and right in the corner. So that is your half square rectangle. So you're going to continue on with the instructions, and there's another set of half square rectangles to do. And you'll just notice that one goes in one angle and one goes in the opposite angle. One goes in one angle and one goes in the opposite angle. So just make sure that you do rotate one way and one the other way when you're making them, because like I said, they only make the direction in one direction. So just make sure your angle is angling in the right directions. So I just wanted to show you the second half square rectangle. So on page 5 it says to make one the same one but in opposite directions, and so you just want to make sure that you before you trim that you actually have. So I would line both half square rectangles up, and as you see I can't ever get it to match. So then I know I have sewn them both in opposite directions, and so that is correct. Again, I'm going to sort of like peek which fabric that I want to keep, and I think I'm going to trim off this side. I'm just going to show you the template again because it's the same size. So I'm going to trim this off at my 1/4 inch. Set those aside in my scrap bin. Press this open. And then once I've pressed it open here, I will use my template here. So then you can just see that you'll end up with one half square rectangle in both directions. I'm going to go and press this and continue sewing. All right, so it's been pressed. I'm going to line up my template on that space again. Make sure it's corner to corner so the template is meeting right into the corner. And right there, I am taking a ruler, place it right on top, and trim my half square rectangle. And then the other side, make sure it's still lined up. So I love making that template because then I don't really have to worry about the measurement again because I've measured it correctly there. So I can just make sure that it's lined up and then I can trim that away. All right, and as you can see, we have two half square rectangles facing in opposite directions. Yay! Let's keep going. And if you want just a little bit more practice, let's do the last ones together here. So R and FF. So I've taken my R and my FF. And this time you can make them both at the same time. And it's actually easier because you're going to draw your lines in opposite directions right off the bat. So let's draw your lines in opposite directions from this corner to this corner on the wrong side of your R square. I have right sides together. Good. And then on this one, excellent. And then I'm going to take those corners and rotate them. Make sure it's corner to corner. Take these corners and rotate them. Put a couple pins in them just so they don't shift, or if they're feeling these are small enough that you can manage and hold the two corners, you're welcome to do that as well. Don't forget we're going to trim it, so we're trimming this one to 3.5 by 5, and I'll go sew those and be right back. All right, so I've sewn them both. They're both going in opposite directions. It looks like this is the right side, but this is actually the right side. And I'm just going to flip again and make sure. Now, let's say I want this one here, but I want this one here. Oh, because it's got a little fox peeking out. And so you can completely just do that because they make the same. Each piece makes the same half square rectangle. So I'm going to choose the inside pieces and I'm going to trim out these outside pieces. And I'll do that with my 1/4 inch. Press these open, and then we're going to trim. So here we are with our two pressed half square rectangles, and I'll take my 3.5 by 5 template, giving you a generous size so that you have lots of room to maneuver. Sometimes if it's an angle, it really feels kind of wonky, but you want to make sure that the corner is matching inside the corner of your seams. And then you just trim these up. Excellent. There's one ready to go. And the next. There we go. All right, so now it says to take your Q and your Q piece, and you are going to, so again, I'm going to keep this Q. I only need 2 of them, so I'm going to keep this pinned to my remaining 2. And I am going to do just a basic stitch and flip on the corners. So if you can have a guide on your machine, you can just sew from corner to corner, or if you'd like to, you can draw this line on the back. And this is our basic stitch and flip method here. And you'll just sew along that line. Trim and flip. I'll just take my 1/4 inch seam, trim it off. And again here, press these open. And it'll look like this. You'll have 2 on either side. You'll just. All right, the last thing I want to show you is the ears, the pinning together. So we had our half square rectangle, we did our half square triangle there, and we're going to want to match those 2 points. So I'm going to use actually 4 pins to match this. I'd like to show you how I do that. So at my 1/4 inch seam allowance, so you can measure it on your cutting mat if you need to. And I put it in through this seam and in through this seam at my 1/4 inch seam, and I leave it standing up. So you can see that the pin is staying standing up. Then I take a second pin and pin on either side of it. So the reason why I do it this way is when you take it through your 1/4 inch seam and your 1/4 inch seam right in through both pieces, and then you turn the pin to pin it in this way, it pulls the top layer of fabric over just by that 1 stitch. So if you ever are feeling frustrated that your points are just off by like that, 1 millimeter, that one little stitch, that will be why. So this way it'll be exact. So when I sew, I'm going to sew right up into this pin. I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to take this in my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew right along up to here, up to this pin. Then I pull that pin out, sew along the edge right up to this pin, pull this pin out, and keep going. Are you ready to see the truth here? So when I open it up now, take a look at that point. Yay! And take a look at this point. Completely aligned. So now if you press your seams over to one side, it kind of gives a little bit of shift. It still will be fine, but that I will actually press my seams open here, and then it's going to lay nice and flat, and you can just see how that's going to look. Well, I hope that you loved learning that half square rectangle tutorial with me. It's really, really fun, easy, and a great way to just sort of get those angled pieces that you can't really get with a half square triangle. So really fun. I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you so much. So this week your homework is to just sew the center of the Fox Cub quilt. So piece the center together. If you are joining, no, I hope you are joining us next week, but if you are doing the pieced border, please do join us next week. If you are thinking you're just doing a straight border, that's no problem. Come and join us anyways. It's so fun to have you here. But if you're doing the pieced border, you'll need to cut that out separately. So those instructions to cut them out are starting on page 10. And you'll just have to follow the instructions for cutting it out and just using the pieces of fabrics that you need. So there's 4 different fabrics. Print 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can choose from light to dark, the prints that you would like, as well as the background print. And you can make this piece border here. and we'll do that next week together. So just make sure it's cut out, or you can cut it out with me next week also. That's no problem. And just your homework this week is sewing the center of the fox cub. Mine too. I'll finish up sewing mine as well. And I'm so happy to have you here. Again, if you want to join the panel sew along, it's on Wednesdays. It's still happening right now. Grab a panel, find a panel. The panels are just hitting some shops this month. If you're not in the US, if you're in Canada or the UK or Australia, that they have shops that are pre-ordering them if they haven't quite arrived yet. So just keep Googling and finding. They're just hitting. And just so you know, these videos will always stay. So if you can't join us live or you don't have your fabrics yet, please don't worry that you can still sign up for the sew along and quilt alongs. We'll keep them up, and we'll make sure that you get the information that you need. So when this is all over in November, then I'll automate those emails so that if you sign up in December or later on, that you'll still make sure you get the right information that you need for downloads and all the things. So thank you so much for being here. It means so much to me. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, join our Facebook group, and please make sure you're signed up for the Be So Inspired newsletter, because we have so much to share coming up. It's so fun. Looking forward to a great rest of the month with you. So thank you for being here. See you later. Bye for now.